Welcome to Mindful Contract Administrator. This series of videos has been designed to cultivate the mindfulness within contract administrators in the construction industry. Today, we are going to talk about extended cost value reconciliation. Probably you may have heard of what is cost value reconciliation. So, what is extended cost value reconciliation? It is a novel concept in order to have a more closer monitoring of the cost in the commercial management in construction. This is a tool, a very useful tool, which can be used by contractors during post-contract administration of the cost pertaining to a particular contract. Now, let us understand what exactly is meant by cost value reconciliation. Simple terms, it is the comparison between the value you have inserted within the contract BOQ and the cost that you have expended within that particular activity. For example, let us take that you have to do a bulk excavation of 10,000 cubic meters at a rate of 1.5 Omani Riyals. For the purpose of understanding of other nationalities, let me explain you what 1.5 Omani Riyal is. In simple terms, it is about 4 US dollars, 3 pounds, about 700 Sri Lankan rupees or 300 Indian rupees. So, if you are supposed to do 10,000 cubic meters of excavation using 1.5 Omani Riyals per cubic meter, at the end of this particular task, you will be getting 15,000 Omani Riyals. Now, at the end of the first month, all of a sudden, you realize that the cost expended per cubic meter has exceeded by a substantial amount as compared to the value that you have inserted. So what will happen? You will lose. You will not gain anything from that. So, in this cost value reconciliation, what you normally do is, at the end of each month, you blindly put the values against the cost in order to identify whether this particular item is gaining or losing. Now, what is extended cost value reconciliation? As you all know, if you are putting a value or a rate for a excavation, it is based on the depth of excavation. It is not based on the depth of excavation. For instance, let us take into account a contract which was governed by Principle of Measurement International 1979. It does not specify different rates for different depths of excavation as opposed to Sesame 4 or New Rules of Measurement, wherein there are depth bands which has been defined within the contract BOQ. Therefore, we need to understand how we are going to do the cost value reconciliation for different depth bands in the absence of the depth bands within the BOQ. In order to do that, you normally do what is called a work study. That is, the quantity surveyor has to go to the site and understand how this particular excavation is happening for the different depth bands throughout the excavation activity. So it will be easier for you to understand within the different ranges of depth how the cost has been expended. Now, you have to understand when there is an excavation which you are doing as bulk excavation, there are certain factors which will govern the particular cost. For instance, the amount of water which is required and the cost of water is one factor, and the soil investigation report is another factor. And when it goes more deeper in the soil, the excavation rate may vary due to the constraints which is imposed within the space that you are going to excavate. Moreover, whether or not that particular excavated materials can be dumped within a confined space is another factor which will define the depth of excavation and the complexity of the excavation. Therefore, it is very important to do the work study not only during the surface excavation, as well as you have to do towards the end of the excavation, which is going more deeper. So when you are doing this sort of an extended cost value reconciliation, you can easily identify the depth bands even though it is not defined within the BOQ itself. Now, what is the outcome of doing this particular extended cost value reconciliation? It is twofold. One is to identify whether the estimator has done a proper estimate of this particular BOQ rate. Because when you are working out this 1.5 reals per cubic meter, the quantity surveyor may have taken into account the norms that the company is using in order to develop that rate. But in reality, if the productivity of the machinery that you are using or the labor that you are using is less than what is stipulated within the quantity surveyors or estimators estimation, the estimation may go wrong. That is why the work study is required in order to identify whether the estimation is correct or wrong. Now, from the work study, if you identify that the norms which has been used by the quantity surveyor is correct, then you have to refer to the project manager in order to identify whether that particular laborer or the machine is doing the actual required productivity which is expected within the norms. There are two ways of correcting this particular loss. One is to give instructions to the project manager or give suggestions to the project manager how you can improve the productivity of a particular operation. Or else, if this particular operation has been done by using wrong norms, you can give an advice to the estimation department of your company in order to avoid any such mistakes in future operations as such. Extended cost value reconciliation can be used in other situations as well, wherein, for example, let us say that you have to use prefabricated panels in a building which has got different levels. So, obviously, when you are doing this sort of a operation at the ground level, the rate will be less. But when it goes to other levels of the building, this operation will need more resources such as a crane as well as complications in handling due to wind and all these things. However, the quantity surveyor or the estimator may have not put those complexity factors in account when you are doing the estimation. He may have just put this by using the number of panels which is required, because the BOQ has not specifically mentioned fixing of the panel in the ground level, fixing of the panel in the top level. So all these factors can be taken into account when you are doing a cost value reconciliation. At the end of the day, what the quantity surveyor is achieving is adding a layer of experience into this particular operation, adding a layer of experience into the cost management of the company using that particular tool called cost value reconciliation. Now I hope that you have gained enough knowledge about how you are going to do an extended cost value reconciliation. Thank you.